This is 2022's Firestarter. Warning, spoilers ahead. We open up to Vicky as she feeds Charlie, and Andy comes into the nursery to check on them. He smiles at his brand new baby girl, and Vicky lays her down in the crib. Charlie babbles as she looks up at Vicky, and everything seems to be okay. They leave her alone in her crib, but Charlie's mobile starts to creak. Fires start in the nursery, and Andy notices something strange just before they get into their bedroom. When he gets back into the nursery, he grabs Charlie as the fire spreads, but he wakes up from the dream to find himself laying next to Vicky. This is like the complete opposite of Jack from The Incredibles. They were so happy to find out that he had powers, and they found out in one of the funniest ways possible. This family found out in one of the most terrifying ways possible. At least Charlie didn't catch on fire herself. Andy goes to check on Charlie, and he finds her playing with a lighter in the kitchen. She's older now, and she tries to explain that she's feeling something weird changing in her body. Andy tries to remind her of the processes she's supposed to go over when she starts to lose control, and one of the main things is to name the things she sees around her. He explains that the bad fire has been gone for a long time, and Vicky comes out to check on them. Now that everyone's up, Andy offers to make pancakes, and the family enjoys a midnight breakfast. Suddenly, we see video footage of Andy and Vicky as they agree to drug testing while in college, and it becomes clear that they're testing for telekinetic abilities. Where's my compound 6? I want some telekinetic abilities. All of these movies show people getting powers from random Tylenol testing. Where's my invisibility or super strength? Back in the present, Andy goes to work counseling people who are trying to quit smoking, and it becomes clear that he can manipulate minds. He seems to be a magic miracle worker, but using his power also takes a toll on his body. After his client leaves, Andy has trouble breathing, and he starts crying tears of blood. Meanwhile, Andy is being teased for not being allowed to use technology, and the bully next to her just won't stop. Imagine sitting in class and just starting to feel really hot. That's what happens here, and luckily Charlie gets it under control. Later at home, Vicky checks in on Charlie, and she finds out that she doesn't want to go to school anymore. Charlie tries to tell her that she wants normal things, like phones and Wi-Fi, but Vicky tells her that it'll all rot her brain. Charlie tells her that the bad feeling got worse today when she got picked on, and Vicky tries to assure her that she's not weird at all. Charlie asks Vicky if she's scared of her, and Vicky assures her that she could never be scared of her. Later, Andy comes home, and Vicky tells him that they need to train Charlie to protect herself from the men who will want to use her powers. That's healthy coping mechanisms at its finest. Shove it down, just shove it all deep down. That's until little Carrot Top bully keeps pushing her buttons. The next day at school, Carrot Top Jr. hits her with a dodgeball and makes fun of her, and Charlie runs to the bathroom to try and calm down. Her teacher follows after her, and Charlie tries to warn her to leave. The teacher wants to check on her though, and she gets blasted back when Charlie explodes the bathroom stall door off its hinges. Sure enough, the cops are called, and Charlie waits for her parents to show up. Vicky and Andy go to speak with the principal, and the school seems to think that she used some sort of explosive. They find out that the police want to look into the matter further, and Andy tells Vicky that this was a siren call when they get home. Well, if we're not trying to freak out on Charlie, this is not the way to do it. Not only does he tell her that they have to leave in a hurry, he tells her that bad men are after them. Well, if staying calm is the way to keep the fire from coming, this is the opposite thing to do. Sure enough, Charlie's so upset that she ends up setting Vicky's arms on fire out of rage. She goes to call an ambulance, but Andy convinces her that Vicky will be okay. Meanwhile, Captain Hollister calls Rainbird to reinstate him after seeing the satellite imagery of the explosion. At first, he tells her that she's not part of that life anymore. But after some convincing, Hollister assures him that he's the only one that can handle bringing Charlie back alive. Back at the house, Andy takes care of Vicky's wounds, and she tries to point out that this is what happens when they tell her to push her powers and feeling down. She asks him to take Charlie out for a movie or ice cream, and she starts packing once they're gone. Soon, she senses someone else there, and she goes to investigate. Soon, a knock comes at the door, and she answers to find a police officer. Vicky assures her that everything's okay here, and she goes back inside. She should have kept that cop there for a moment. Rainbird's just sitting there, and he can just read her mind. Rainbird explains that the company tested their drug on people like him before giving it to college kids like her. He got the rough dosages. Seemed to turn out okay, though. I could do with reading people's minds. Vicky uses her power to throw things at him, but she's so out of practice that she misses. He wrestles with her in the bathroom, and she tells him that he'll regret all of this once he meets Charlie. Just then, Charlie and Andy pull in the driveway, and Charlie tells him that it was supposed to be him that caught on fire. Once they get inside, Andy has Charlie throw something in the trash. But when he comes back in the room, Rainbird has her in his arms. Charlie tries to ask where Vicky is, but when it's clear that she's dead, Charlie explodes and knocks Rainbird back against the wall. Charlie and Andy barely make it out alive. Could you imagine getting a blast like that and having to get back up? He's lucky that she hasn't been practicing. Even when he takes a shower later, he starts regretting taking the job. Charlie and Andy take refuge behind a motel, and Charlie tries practicing her power on some trash outside. It turns out that she's able to move it a little bit, and she's happy with the progress. Meanwhile, Andy is sleeping in the car, and he has a nightmare about Vicky. When Charlie goes to check on the trash, she finds a cat by the dumpster and she reaches out to pet it. The cat scratches her, and Charlie completely loses it on the cat. When Andy shows up, he finds the cat in pain, and he tells Charlie that she has to finish it. He explains that this is the cost of losing control, and it has to be a decision from now on. Charlie's getting the lesson of a lifetime. Forget about it, talk about the circle of life. She's getting put in charge of the circle. Meanwhile, Captain Hollister goes to see Dr. Wanless, and she tells him that she found Charlie. Dr. Wanless said that the compound that he created was a mistake, but Hollister tells him that it's too late to go back on what's done. She thinks that they should just exploit her now that the mistake has been made, and she tries to recruit him back to work. He tells her that the only logical option is to kill Charlie, because otherwise, she'll destroy them. Back with Charlie and Andy, they bury the cat, and they say a little prayer over it. Once they're done, Andy tells Charlie that all Vicky wanted was for her to learn how to use her powers, and he thinks that since she has Vicky's powers, she probably has his push too. He warns her that it will take a toll on her body when she uses it, but she points out that she actually feels great when she uses it. Sounds like a psychic serial killer in the making. Soon they hitch a ride with Manders as he drives home to check on his wife, and Andy pays for a ride to Boston. Here's how useful his power is. He tells Manders that he's paying him $100 to take them to Boston, but he's really holding out a dollar bill. Not to sound like a criminal, but that would be epic to use. Eventually they get to Manders' farm, and Charlie goes to play with the chickens. Andy heads inside with Manders, and Manders yells to his wife that they have company for dinner. Outside, Charlie gets a weird feeling from one of the windows, and she climbs some boxes to get a better look. She leans too hard on the screen, and she ends up falling in. She finds a woman inside on life support, and she speaks with her telepathically. When she gets out of the room, Manders is furious that she was in Essie's room, but he apologizes for overreacting soon after. That night, Andy and Charlie get some rest on Manders' couch, and he tells Charlie about what she was like when she was born. He explains that he found someone trying to snatch her while they were at the hospital and he hurt them for it. He tries to point out that hurting the bad men also meant that they were hurting the good family they leave behind. He makes her promise not to use her powers to hurt people. I feel like she's going to have to break that promise here in a little bit. There's about to be a whole bunch of bad people coming after them, and it'll be survival of the fittest. Charlie's the fittest if she can use her powers. In the morning, Andy wakes up to find Manders watching the news, and it turns out that there's a manhunt for him now. Andy tries to reason with him, but it's Charlie who convinces him that they're not the bad guys. She tells him what Essie told her in her mind, but suddenly the police show up. It turns out that Manders called them while they were sleeping, but he goes outside to convince the cops that Andy and Charlie aren't really there. Suddenly, Rainbird shows up and kills the cop, and Charlie makes a break for it while Andy goes to use his power on Rainbird. Andy makes it so that Rainbird can't see Charlie anymore, and soon, agents arrive with lenses that protect them from Andy's power. They take everyone in custody, but Charlie manages to get away to the forest nearby. Charlie's power's going to unleash holy hell on that facility when she gets there. She's got to have some sort of connection with Andy that will lead her there, though. Even Rainbird says so when he gets taken to Captain Hollister. He also tells her that she'll understand everything when she meets Charlie. You know what? That sounds kind of familiar. After her meeting with Rainbird, Hollister goes to Andy and she tells him to tell her where Charlie is. She tries to play on his emotions as best as she can, but she doesn't seem to be too good at this part of her job. Meanwhile, Charlie's eating berries in the forest like she's gone full native, and Andy gives her a glimpse of where he's at. Charlie tries practicing her powers on some sticks she gathers, but she finds it hard to aim. After a lot of trial and error, she seems to get better at it, and she swears to find Andy. Before she goes for Andy, she goes to the neighborhood where some rich kids start bullying her, and she uses her dad's power of push to get them to give her a bike, food, and clothes. Charlie's resourceful for not having technology, too. She managed to find the DSI headquarters based off of one mental image, and that's it. This is like before the era of MapQuest, even. Once Charlie gets to the facility, she sneaks into the car of an agent who's leaving, and she gets his card. She tries to get some more info out of him, but when he tricks her and goes for his gun, she has no choice but to burn him to a crisp. The security guard watching the cameras notices the blast, and he tells the others that she's inside. As Charlie makes her way down the hallway, she starts burning the cameras so she can't be watched, and she makes her way deeper into the facility's underbelly. She uses the keycard to gain access to the restricted area, and a team of agents are following her. Eventually, she comes to a cell where they're keeping Andy, and he can't believe that she came. He points out that it wasn't him who sent her that message, and Hollister shows up behind Andy. It turns out that it's too late for Andy. Microhemorrhages formed when he uses his power, and that sounds absolutely terrifying. But Andy does the ultimate good dad sacrifice here. He tells her to burn them both. Actually, she pushes her so that she has to follow through. Won't lie, it feels good to see the look of fear in Hollister's eyes, though. Now that Andy and Hollister are done, nothing is stopping Charlie from unleashing her full power. Teams of agents swarm the building, but Charlie is determined to make her way out of the facility while taking down everything. She unlocks every single door in the building, and that means Rainbird is free now too. Every agent Charlie runs into gets burnt or pushed to death, and eventually she comes across agents in fireproof suits. They walk right through her inferno, and Charlie exhausts herself trying to burn them. Suddenly, Rainbird appears and takes out the guards. He's come to accept his fate by Charlie's hand, and he gets down on his knees to let her dish out her judgment. I gotta have respect for Rainbird. It takes a special person to carry out a job they don't want to, just to turn around and let the girl whose mother you killed take her revenge. Granted, he got lucky when Charlie looks at herself in the reflection of the door, but still, he was prepared to meet his fate. Charlie sets the entire facility ablaze after she gets outside, and she walks to the coast as fire appears all around her. Finally, she falls to her knees and weeps as the waves crash along the shore. Rainbird appears next to her, and he reaches his hand out to her. Charlie reaches up to him, and Rainbird carries her in his arms as they leave the facility. Then, the credits roll. For a Stephen King remake, they did okay. It's nothing compared to the original, but Stephen King movies usually don't have a good history of being very good. This was well done. Give it a shot. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.